In this section, we will solve more problems using the same techniques that we learned in section 2B. The problems that we're going to solve using the same dimensional analysis techniques in this section are a little more complicated than the problems that we solved in the previous section. So let's read the first problem. 1 cubic foot holds 7.48 gallons. So that's the first part of the question. 1 gallon of water weighs 8.33 pounds. How much does a cubic foot of water weigh in pounds? So first, we need to figure out the number of gallons in 1 cubic foot of water, and that is 7.48 gallons. The next step is to change gallons to pounds, which means what is the weight of 7.48 gallons of water? So we use the conversion equation. 1 gallon equals 8.33 pounds. We multiply this is equal to 1 as we've discussed before. So we multiply 7.48 gallons with the fraction that has gallons in the denominator. So we use the fraction with the gallons in the denominator. So the gallons cancels with the gallons, and we are left with the pounds, and that's exactly what we want our units to be, and we want pounds to be in the numerator. We multiply the numbers 7.48 and 8.33 to get 7.48 times, and we forget to do that, 8.33. So the final answer is 62.3084 pounds. So I forgot to multiply the 8.33 with the 7.48, and hence the error that we just fixed. Now the next step is to change pounds to ounces. So now we need to make this correction. Let's just make that correction. Remember that we forgot to multiply the 8.33. So now we have 62.3084 pounds. So the units is pounds, but the number is 62.3084. We multiply it with 16 ounces over 1 pound, so that cancels the pounds off because 1 pound is 16 ounces. That's what our conversion equation is. And we wanted our answer in ounces, so ounces is in the numerator. And combining the numbers, now we're going to have a different answer. Remember, we changed that number. So our answer is 62.3084 times 16, which is equal to 996.93 ounces. Let's look at the next question. Question 2. Suppose we bought 10 six packs of soda. Each 6-pack contains 6 12-ounce cans. How many gallons of soda did we buy? So one 6-pack contains 6 times 12 ounces because it has 6 cans, each is 12 ounces. That is equal to 72 ounces. So one 6-pack contains 72 ounces of soda. So this is ounces of soda. Now we've bought 10 6-packs. So 10 times one 6-pack. Each 6-pack contains 72 ounces. So 72 ounces divided by 1 6-pack, we cancel the 6 packs. Basically, we are multiplying the 10 with the 72 to get the total amount of soda in 10 6-packs, and that comes up to 720 ounces. The next problem, a kilometer is, this is the question we're answering, how many times as large as 1 micrometer? So let's look at the table and figure out what the conversion equations are. So 1 kilometer equals 1,000 meters, and 1 micrometer is 10 to the negative 6 meters. So it's basically 1 millionth of a meter. It's a tiny amount. It's 1 millionth of a meter. It's 1 over 10 to the 6, which is 10 to the negative 6. And that's where we get that equation. So we need to convert kilometers to micrometers. So using the two equations, we can first go from kilometers to meters, which means we convert kilometers to meters first using the first equation, and meters to micrometers using the second equation. So start with 1 kilometer, multiply with the fraction that works for us. Remember, we want to cancel out kilometers, so that's why we take 1,000 meters over 1 kilometer. Multiply with, so at this point we have the meters, and now when we multiply it with the next conversion equation, and a fraction that will work for us is the one that would cancel off the meters, and now we have micrometers surviving in the numerator, so that gives us the units for our final answer. So when we do all the calculations, you can use your calculator. You don't have to do this by hand. 1,000 divided by 10 to the negative 6 is 10 to the 9, and the units is micrometers. So the next question is, 1 cubic meter is how many times as large as, so that's the question we are trying to answer, how many times as large as a cubic millimeter? So this is the question. 1 cubic meter equals how many cubic millimeters? So let's look at the conversion equations. We can go about doing these calculations in many different ways, but let's say I had this equation. 1 meter is 100 centimeters, and 1 centimeter is 10 millimeters. So 1 meter is 1,000 millimeters, and I get that from these two conversion equations. So 1 meter is 1,000 millimeters. 1 cubic meter is, and we've done this before, 1 meter times 1 meter times 1 meter. Now, in order to make the conversion from 1 cubic meter to cubic millimeters, each of these has to be converted to millimeters. So 1 meter is 1,000 millimeters times 1,000 millimeters times 1,000 millimeters. That is the same as 10 to the 9th power millimeter cubed. Remember, once again, millimeter times millimeter times millimeter is millimeter cubed. The next problem, 160 centimeters to inches. So first of all, we need a conversion equation. 1 inch equals 2.54 centimeters. 160 centimeters is what we start with. We multiply with the fraction that works for us and the fraction we get from the conversion equation. 160 centimeters times 1 inch over 2.54 centimeters. We pick this fraction to do the multiplication, so the centimeters get cancelled, and the units that survive is in the numerator, in inches. Combining the numbers 160 over 2.54, we get 62.99 inches. The next problem, 18 meters per second has to be converted to miles per hour. So meters per second, it is the same as meters over seconds, has to be converted to miles over hour. So we start off with 18 meters per second. So 18 meters over 1 second. Now we need to change meters to miles. So meters has to change to miles. And the next thing that we need to change is seconds to hours. So we go about doing the chain of multiplications, so that way we cancel out the units that we do not want and keep the units that we want in our final answer. So 18 meters per second times, and the conversion is 1000 meters equals 1 kilometer. So 1000 meters equals 1 kilometer. That's the equation that gives us this ratio. We multiply it with this particular fraction or ratio, so the meters get cancelled. So now we've converted the meters to kilometers. Now the next multiplication is with the equation 1 mile equals 1.6 kilometers. So 1 mile over 1.6 kilometers is what we pick because we want to cancel off the kilometers, so miles survive in the numerator. Now what we've done so far at this point is we've changed meters to miles. Now the next step is to change seconds to hours. So how do we change seconds to hours? 1 hour is equal to 3600 seconds. That's the equation that we use. So 1 second is the same as 1 over 3600 hours. Let's just say we had that equation. So we take the convenient fraction, which is 1 second over 1 over 3600 hours. We cancel the seconds with the seconds, and finally we have hours in the denominator. So combining all the numbers, we just have to use a calculator to figure that out. Miles over hours, because those are the two units that survived, miles over hours. Everything else got cancelled. So we have the units of speed now have changed from meters per second to miles per hour. And the final answer is 40.5 miles per hour. So here we've done all the work related to conversions, how we change seconds to hours, how we change meters to miles using the two equations. 1000 meters is 1 kilometer, 1 mile is 1.6 kilometers. We've used these equations in the calculations to get our. The next question, we're changing square kilometers to square miles. So 2 square kilometers is how many square miles? So how do we represent square kilometers? It's 1 kilometer times 1 kilometer, which gives us 1 square kilometer. So the exponent tells us how many times to multiply 1 kilometer. So 2 kilometers square is the same as 2 times 1 kilometer times 1 kilometer. Now if you want to change the units to square miles, each of the units, that is kilometers, has to be changed to miles. The equation is 1 mile equals 1.6 kilometers. So that's the equation we are using to convert kilometers to miles. So we multiply it with the right fraction so we can cancel off the kilometers and the miles survive. We do the exact same thing in the second parentheses. We multiply with 1 mile over 1.6 kilometers. The kilometers cancels with the kilometers and we have 1 mile. And the final answer is miles times miles. That's what survives, and that's how we get our final unit, square miles. Combining all the numbers, it's 2 divided by 1.6 times 1.6. If you want to enter it into your calculator, make sure you're going 2 divided by, in parentheses, 1.6 times 1.6. And that gives us 0.7813 square miles. The next problem is basically converting degrees centigrade to degrees Fahrenheit. So that's the equation. Whether you want to convert Fahrenheit to centigrade, centigrade to Fahrenheit, use the exact same equation. So in part A, we're given the temperature in degrees centigrade and we need to change it to degrees Fahrenheit. So first write down your equation. The next step is to plug in what we know. So in this case, we know the temperature in degrees centigrade, so that's why I plugged in -15 for C. Now, F is the temperature in degrees Fahrenheit, and that's what we need to solve for. Multiply both sides with 180, so we get rid of the 180 first. So the 180 gets cancelled, and we have, so we go here next, F minus 32, since the 180 gets cancelled, is equal to -15 times 180 divided by 100. Now we need to get rid of the -32, so we add 32 on both sides. So -32 and the +32 get cancelled, and our answer is F. So we've solved for F. Use your calculator carefully and solve for F. So we get 5 degrees Fahrenheit, and what we started was with -15 degrees centigrade. Now basically here you have to know how to solve an equation, and you've probably done that in your algebra class. Now the next question, you're given the temperature in degrees Fahrenheit and you have to figure out the temperature in degrees centigrade. So you follow the exact same process as we did before. Write down your equation first, plug in the number that you know, so in this case it is 70. Now the next thing is to solve for C. You need to get C by itself, which means get rid of 100 by multiplying both sides with 100. So that cancels off the 100. So we've solved for C. Just plug in all these numbers into your calculator. Make sure you're using parentheses, and that's the answer we get. So 70 degrees Fahrenheit is equal to 21.11 degrees centigrade, and that has made the conversion.